Okay, so what we're going to do now, I have taken from another resource that I used. We're going to be working with our calculators, so I hope everybody brought theirs today. So take a minute to get it out. So what we have here is, I'll go ahead and read the problem that we're looking at. It says that in baseball, the on-base percentage for a team represents the percentage of time that the player safely reaches base. The data given in the table below represents the number of runs scored and the on-base percentage for the teams in the National League during the 2003 baseball season. Basically, we have a column of numbers which we're going to call our independent variable, or X, the amount of times they get on base, or the percentage of the times they get on base. And then we're going to have our dependent variable, Y, which would be the runs they therefore score after getting on base. Really, this, I think, quite clearly represents a case where the more times you get on the base, the more likely you're going to score runs. It's clearly a linear relationship. Okay? But we're going to learn mostly how to use the calculator to determine some things, and how today basically get this information onto the calculator, onto a scatter plot, and draw the line of best fit through the data. So the first thing we need to do is we need to pull out our calculators, turn them on, and I want you to find the stat button. Independent is the X, yes. So we're looking now at the stat button here. You should see something like this menu. And definitely want to take notes on this, because this is not in your book. Okay? This is an area where statistics and algebra cross over, and we need to do the algebra part of this. And you'll appreciate it if any of you guys take statistics anytime soon. All right. So we are going to actually edit this data. Now, I want you to watch this. When I hit the edit button, I can either choose the number 1 or enter since I'm on it. I have numbers in mind. You probably either don't have numbers or have different numbers. Okay? That's to be expected. If you hit your edit button, I want you to do a couple things first. Make sure you have an L1 and L2 written on the top. That's important. If you don't, I'll have to fix that for you.
What if it skips from L2 to L4?
That's okay, as long as L1 and L2 are there. So somebody's lost your L3, that's fine. We're not going to use L3, but I can put that back for you if you want. But it's easy to delete these things, by the way, so watch out. But what we're going to do is we're all going to work with L1 and L2, and as I said, I have data in it from a previous problem. You may or may not have data. So all of these problems will start the same way. We're going to clear out the data in list 1 and list 2. And you can see on the piece of paper that I have 2 lists of numbers. That list 1 is going to be the first list, and list 2 is going to be the second. Let me show you how to clear the list, though, in a convenient and an efficient way for the calculator, so that there's not any straggler numbers running around. So what you want to do is you second quit, and remember, second quit's your best friend in just about everything here to get out of all the stuff. If we hit the stat button again, notice what option 4 says to clear the lists. Now hit enter, but don't run it yet. Just leave it right there. This says to clear the list, but it doesn't tell the calculator which list to clear. Which list do we want to clear? L1 and L2. Notice above the button 1 there's a yellow L1, and above the button 2 there's a yellow L2. So what we're going to write is clear list. We're going to put L1, we're going to separate it with a comma, and then put L2. So I'm using the second, and here's the comma, right above the 7 button. So that's the command. Notice it's L1, comma, L2. When I hit enter now, it's going to run the command to clear the list 1, clear the list 2. It should respond to me by saying done.
Where's the comma?
The comma is right here above 7.
Did you have the second?
No, it's the actual button itself, the comma button.
No, I mean for L1 and L2.
Yes, you have to hit second to get to L1 and L2 though. Otherwise it will do something else. Okay, so is everybody with me? Okay. Now, what will happen now when I look at the editor, of course, is I will go back to stat again, hit the editor, and I have nothing. That's exactly what I want, nothing, right? Okay, so here we're going to fill the independent variable for x, L1, the independent variable for L2. But before we go there, we need to set up our calculators, and the default setting is the one I want. So most of you should have this. So let's get out of here again by hitting second quit. Now notice you can clear out any of that stuff. We don't need it anymore. But where it says y equals 2, if you look above that, it says stat plot. If you hit second and the y equals button, you should get a menu that looks like this. Now most of yours will probably say off right here. But I'll get to that, that's easy. What I want yours to say is L1 and L2 have a picture like this right next to it and this little square thing over here. Now be careful, there's a couple things to look for real fast. You definitely want to have this, the exact picture here of this scatter plot. Does anybody not have that picture under L1? You don't. Okay, I need to fix that. Does it say L1 and L2? And then you have this symbol. Okay, to fix this, hit enter. If you don't need to fix it, don't do this. Hit enter, and you can see there's choices here of the different ones. Go choose the very first one that I have highlighted, and then you can second quit to get out of that. What if it's what? Off is fine for now. We're going to turn it on and off somewhere else. Okay, so everybody's stat plot looks good like that? You're just looking at one. I don't care what 2 and 3 are. We're not using them. Just make sure one has L1, L2, this picture, and that symbol. You have those? Okay. Second quit. Again, best friend, second quit. Refrain from using the clear button. That's what a lot of people tend to do on calculators, and most calculators is fine. If you hit clear on this one in the middle of some of these things, though, you'll clear out your choices. You don't want to clear out your choices. You want to get out of the program. So getting out, a second quit, is really what you want to be doing, not clearing. But I know how it is. People go, oh, I didn't want that. And they hit clear thinking the whole screen's going to go away. And you just cleared away a list or something. And that can really be a bummer to put back sometimes. So cautious on the clear button. Okay?
Is the plot still off?
Plot's off is fine. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do now is go back to the stat editor, and this is where I really wanted to be. We won't go back to that setup list. Now that we have your plot set up, as long as you don't lose battery life or have any problems with the calculator, it should never change. It should be that way for the rest of the semester. This is only 2 more weeks. We're going to fill list 1 and list 2 with the data from the problem here. You can go back and forth with these arrows here, scrolling around. It is kind of important, when I say kind of, I should probably emphasize it's very important, that we all get the same numbers, because the different data will give different results. So the first thing to do is carefully input these numbers. Maybe even go back and check. And certainly if our answers are different, then it's probably because we entered a different value. So let's go ahead and take a second or two to enter in these values. The way you do it is you simply go to the button, for instance, right where I am. I can hit the first number is 34.9. Notice it writes it down here, and then you hit enter, and it fills the first slot. And continue in this fashion until you get to the bottom of the list, trying to be as careful as possible.